In my opinion, the major scale is the most important of the scales. Every guitarist should not only learn how to play it in every key, but also needs to understand that a whole system of harmony, which is called diatonic harmony, is derived from the major scale. Put simply, the major scale is the fundamental structure on which much of Western music is based. We find it not only in tunes and instrumental breaks, but also in the chords that we play. The easiest major scale to talk about is the C major scale. That is because the 7 different notes can all be played using the white notes on a piano keyboard. In other words, the C major scale has no sharps or flats. So the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and we generally finish off the scale with another C. To figure out what the notes are in any major scale, we use a scale formula expressed in terms of tones and semitones. On the guitar, a tone is the gap between 2 notes that are 2 frets apart, like F on the 1st fret on the top string and G on the 3rd fret. A semitone is half a tone, or a 1 fret gap, like G on the 3rd fret to G sharp on the 4th fret. The major scale formula is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. To make it easier to remember, we can say 2 tones semitone, 3 tones semitone. Apply this formula to any note and you can easily figure out the major scale that starts on that note. Let's take G as our root note. A tone gives us A, another tone gives us B, then a semitone gives us not B sharp, because there's no such thing, but C. A tone above C gives us D, another tone gives us E, and then another tone isn't F because there is no E sharp, so it's F sharp. Finally, a semitone gives us the G, an octave above the first note. Here's a 2-octave movable shape for the major scale. If we start it at the 3rd fret, then the root note is G, so we call it the G major scale. If we wanted to play a C major scale, then we'd slide the pattern up to the 8th fret, where we find a C on the bottom string. So the major scale allows us to play single note melodies, but it also gives us a system of chords that we can play along with the melody. Let's work with the C major scale. Note 1 is of course C. What we're going to do is build a triad, which is a group of 3 notes that sound pleasant together. The first note is C, next we skip over the D, and so we use E as our second note. Then we skip over F, which makes our 3rd note G. So notes 1, 3 and 5 of the C major scale are C, E and G. And if we play them together, that's a C major chord. A chord doesn't have to have only 3 notes, and any or all of the notes can be repeated at higher or lower octaves. The open C chord, that is usually one of the first chords that we learn to play, contains 5 notes, each of which is either a C, an E or a G. So, chord 1 in the key of C major is, unsurprisingly, C major. Let's move up the scale now to note 2, which is D. We'll build a triad in the same way that we did before. Play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. That gives us D, F and A, which is a D minor chord. and that's our chord 2. Building a triad on note 3, E, gives us E, G and B, or E minor. That's chord 3. Chord 4 is F major, chord 5 is G major, chord 6 is A minor, and chord 7 is an unusual chord called B diminished. Don't confuse this B diminished chord with B diminished 7th. That's a different chord which is made up of 4 notes, not 3. So this gives us a pattern of chords which we can use to harmonise tunes in the key of C. The pattern goes major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So the chords are C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished. All of these chords are built on 3-note triads. Things get a little more interesting when we add a 4th note to our triads. For example, with our C major chord, if we skip another note and add the 7th note of the scale, which is B, that gives us the C major 7th chord. We can do this to the rest of our 7 chords, and that gives us D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G 7th, A minor 7, and B minor 7 flat 5th. So our humble C major scale has given us 14 different chords to use when we accompany tunes in the key of C. Of course, this basic principle can be applied to any key. To get the most use out of this, learn the notes of all 12 major keys. One way of doing this is to use the major scale formula. Another way is to use the circle of fifths to learn the sharps and flats in each key. Google circle of fifths and you'll find several examples of a useful circular diagram that shows you all 12 keys and their sharps and flats. The collection of notes that we find in a major scale also gives us another of the commonly used scales called the natural minor scale. If we start playing on the 6th note of the major scale, that's what we get. For example, if we start on the 6th note of the C major scale, we get the A natural minor scale. In fact, we say that A minor is the relative minor of C major, and that gives us an A minor key which we can use to compose melodies and to harmonise with chords. Now, the chords that we use with the key of A minor are the same chords that we use with C major because they come from exactly the same notes. Before I sign off, I have to say that not all of the music that we play is based on diatonic harmony. An example of a type of music that has its own system of harmony is the blues. I'll cover blues harmony in a future video. Thanks for watching.